Just not getting it.
I know a lot of people in my business, and this is a fairly conservative town, so I'm going to run into more conservative type people here than I would if I was in Boston. And
very conservative.
Very conservative. So you have a little bit different view, and I don't think it's necessarily a good overall view. But almost everybody I talk to, we don't really have a lot of prejudices. We really don't dislike gay people, and
you don't.
We really but a lot of my friends don't either. We really don't. In fact, I had a friend the other day who is a racist, and he walked into my office. My office woman is a Indian descent, and he calls me a Negro on occasion, and I finally had enough, and I went to him and I said, "You're a blatant racist." I said, "You came in and called my office gal a brown girl. You hurt her feelings. You made her cry. And I want to end this right now. We can't do this in today's world. You have to understand that you live in a very narrow world." He has other problems. He's manic depressive and other things, so he has other issues. But you need to take a better view of the world, because we're all in this place together, and you need to start understanding this. And this is part of the thing I'm trying to bring to this, is that we really need to understand, look, we all got a lot of problems out there that need to be solved, and this division is not going to solve it.
But that goes back to what we were saying last week. You are not prejudiced, but the people that make laws don't see things the way you do.
But we have a lot of bad people in there.
Yes, but the problem is
they're in there for the money.
I don't think that's the issue, and I really
What
gotta
we
split,
go-
but I
Yeah, I
would
know
say,
you gotta go.
I would say this is the danger that I think America's fallen into, and it is one of its worst pitfalls at the moment.
is a danger.
Is that you cannot talk about racial issues without being racist. You can't talk about anything. You can't talk about the gay community without being homophobic. You can't talk about illegal immigration without being racist against Mexicans. You can't talk about it. All of a sudden, it's now to the point where you can't have an honest discourse about what the issue is.
Right.
I agree, Black Lives Matter. I wish more black people cared that Black Lives Matter, to be honest, and would stop shooting each other in Chicago. That would be great. I would love that. So if you want to think Black Lives Matter, then stop shooting each other. That would be kick-ass, because generally that's gang violence up there, and it sucks. So there's got to be a point where you can go back to having a reasonably honest discourse about what the issue is. Illegal immigration is an enormous problem, whether we want to admit that it is or not, and that doesn't make you anti-Mexican. It makes you anti-illegals coming across the border. So, and I know a lot of people who immigrated legally who are absolutely pissed. They waited 10 years in some cases to get into this country to get a green card, did it the right way, and yet you have dudes jumping in the river and going out the very right that you did. That's a real problem. That's not being racist. That's like the system sucks, and there's a problem.
And we can talk about that. But
which is kind of the purpose of
the podcast,
of the Loft Party Podcast.
It is, but would you not agree that in general?
Yeah, no, I do agree.
I think it's
I actually do agree.
You can't have a racial conversation without being racist.
Which is really, truly one of the reasons that I wanted to start a podcast.
Sex harassment in the workplace.
Yeah, the reason that I wanted to start a podcast is I wanted to get a group of people together who are from different races, different age groups, different backgrounds, and we could actually have a conversation and not leave the table hating each other's guts.
And it's a beautiful thing.
Oh, it is.
It is a beautiful thing.
Definitely one of the reasons that I wanted to do this, and I'm really glad that it has been embraced, and I'm super grateful that everybody who has come to join the panel has joined the panel. I'm super grateful that everybody out there that listens, because the ability to have civil discourse is what I think the biggest problem is in this country.
Absolutely.
Between races, in races, we can't talk to each other anymore, and that's a problem, because you can't solve any problem if you can't, one, acknowledge the problem is real, and two, have a discussion about the problem, to figure out how to solve it.
That's
We
why I
don't,
went
we don't
to,
have a problem with the first one. Everyone says these are the problems, right? Everyone wants to talk and say that there is a problem.
They know what the problem
but
is, yeah.
we can't have a conversation about it.
Well,
Well-
and that goes back, oh, sorry, Sean.
No,
You
it's
had-
okay.
You
Go
had
ahead.
your hand
Okay.
up. No.
Well, to your point, it's we all know what the problem is. It's just we all have different ideas for the solution. And what we can't agree on is that we all want to solve the problem, and we want to solve the problem in a way that we think is right. But each person comes at it with an idea that, well, your way is wrong, my way is right. So what ends up happening is you end up, so you end up fighting each other. And the way I always look at it is, I think everybody, again, if you're Republican, if you're Democratic, or if you're independent, is you want what is right for the country. You want what is right for your fellow man, but you have a different way about coming about it. So the way I look at it is, I listened to a kid that I knew who grew up in a well-to-do family. They owned a business, and his idea of helping out the poor was give them money and give them benefits and stuff. And I said, well, I grew up poor. I know the best way to help out the poor is don't give them stuff. You got to help them earn it. You have to help them get to that next level. You got to help them get that education, help them get that work
Giving
experience.
them self-value.
Yeah, show them that path and get them there, because
Absolutely.
that's what brings them up and that's what brings them out. It's not just handing them something, because that becomes a trap. You get trapped in that. And the thing is, I've seen people get trapped in that. And his answer is like, no, that's not the way it is. And the thing is, again, is we both want to help the people out. It's just, and we both agree there's a problem. We just both disagree about the solution.
No,
And that's where that fight comes in.
as an employer, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, I went to the inner city and hired a bunch of kids. And they couldn't work more than 23 hours a week because they couldn't get off the stipend. I couldn't, to my frustration and my failure to them, couldn't make them understand. Go work 40 hours a week. I will give you all the tools you need to succeed, but you gotta listen to me. I know how to do this. I'm successful because I know how to do this. Believe me, you gotta understand where I'm coming from. And it's a very frustrating thing when you deal with something like that. And I never have, that bothers me to this day, that I couldn't reach a single, out of 13 individuals, I couldn't reach a single one of them.
Well, and it kind of goes, I'm sure everybody's heard it, but, going back to having the podcast and different opinions and being able to talk, which is nice because we all have a different opinion, all of us.
Yeah.
You and I argue about stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But you listen, you listen to someone else's opinion and you value their insight. And it goes back to, you don't learn and grow by talking to people that have the same opinion as you. You learn and grow
I'll bring up my
by
best friend
talking.
one more time, because we have very different opinions.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? At the end of any of our conversations, it's always, you made some good points, and I made some good points, and I still love you. And that's a cool thing.
There's
That's
times
a great
that
cool thing that I got a brother that I can relate to that way.
there's times that Mario and I will.
Really disagree.
Yeah. We don't get to the point where like, you're sleeping on the couch tonight. No. But I go away and I think about our conversation. It's like, you had a good point and I see it,
Yep.
It may not change my opinion of it. But it also,
But I
the next
understand why
time,
you came to the point you're at.
yeah, but the next time we talk about something like that, I know I have, it comes from a different place because I've gained that knowledge. And I think that's what
It's
we're
an understanding
missing.
of a person.
Yeah. It's understanding that you may feel the same way, but you're going to see it different. He's a man, I'm a woman. We're going to see things differently.
True.
Just fundamentally, you're going to see, and my life experience changes the way that I see things.
Mhm.
So you just have to respect other people's,
And the thing I learned
life.
with my wife is that I'm always wrong.
There you go.
I think you touched on something that's very
Even when
important.
I'm right.
And I think what you touched on is more today, like more important about today than it was maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, is kind of like what you're talking about is, people just are in their own little corners about their beliefs. But I think we've created with social media and with different variety of news channels and all that kind of stuff is you create your own community. And what that does is that hardens your resolve as to what you believe, and you're just constantly having conversation with people who just say, yeah, you're right, yeah, you're right, yeah, you're right. So you believe you're right. But then the problem is the other side's doing the same thing. So that when you come together, it's you meet somebody who has a differing opinion, and because you don't discuss it or talk out, or you don't interact with those, because you don't have that in your community, you have that fight again. You have that disagreement, that fight.
Right.
And again, in this society, because again of all the different things that we create that society, and then we when we meet somebody that we disagree with, we retract back into our community that agrees with us. You know,
You have a whole population behind you that says
you're right.
Yeah.
You are not wrong.
And never challenges you,
Yeah.
even when they may disagree with you, they're not going to challenge you on that. So it's one of those things where a long time ago, you didn't have that, so you'd have a discussion with people, and you mix with people with different opinions, and you'd have a conversation, and sometimes you'd be like, oh, that guy's an idiot, or you'd be like, oh, okay, he's got a point, and it's just, I think that's the biggest problem is you fall back into your own community.
You mean we
And-
compromised?
Yeah.
Really? We had compromise?
Yeah,
How wonderful.
right. But it's just,
And that goes back to nobody wants to give an inch.
right.
There we go.
Absolutely.
There we go.
Absolutely.
So before we get out of this week's party foul section and get into party favors, do we have anything else from Brian or Roy? Maybe you haven't had as much to say as everybody else.
Their content was more.
I do believe so.
I think it was a great conversation.
No, absolutely.
I think we had a wonderful conversation.
Absolutely. And just so everybody knows, next week, of course, we'll be discussing the DNC and their convention and everything else that went on in the world.
That'll be fun too.
That week, absolutely.
I think you should definitely bring up that Bernie Sanders supporters topic next week then with that.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll be interested to talk on that because I'll have to say that most of my friends that are my age are definitely the ones you were talking about.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have some interesting
Absolutely.
perspective.
Before I came here, and I wish I had my other phone on me, Frank Luntz, who's a pollster, sent out a tweet earlier today saying that as of today, 40% of the Bernie supporters that they've polled are not going to vote for Hillary. And then when they took a look at the breakdown, half of it was going to Gary Johnson and half of it was going to Trump out of that 40%.
I believe that.
So that's
Now
right
how-
now, as of right now. So, and with that, another pollster did a look at the map for election purposes, and if the election were to be held today, Trump would win it with 54.6% of the votes, and it was a total of 278 electoral votes.
And
Yeah.
and that's what's crazy about that is up until now,
Right.
Hillary was winning.
Absolutely. And I think it's two things. One, you come off of a convention, so
Yeah.
you always get about
You
a
always
5%
get a
bump.
bump.
But he
for
got a
that.
lot more bump than what.
But not, I would say not
Right.
that much.
I think he got a bump
Almost
from
a
that.
10-point swing, but what he gained and what he lost.
But again, is going back to what you're saying is when it's the bump, but then the document dump from WikiLeaks from the DNC really disenfranchised those guys even more who were Bernie supporters, and I think that also gave him that other bump on that. So again, we're a political lifetime away from the actual election. So as people's emotions kind of temper down, and they
It'll
start
change.
getting back of it, I think you're going to see a flip of that. But
I think it's gonna be a tie race.
But it's
Yeah.
crazy that you were really full-on Democrat and you're now, I mean, that's just
That's not what
such
it's
a
about.
polar,
I'll tell you that's not.
that's
but
not
that's
it.
Yeah, I don't
such a
think that
polar
is what it
opposite
is.
of Bernie and Trump.
But
I don't-
it's,
I don't
it's
think-
about it's about who represents the establishment.
Right.
And Hillary represents all of that. And they're saying Bernie was the opposite. And really, in a sense, Trump is kind of, he doesn't represent that either. And so they're saying anything but her.
I don't think the young people are as much Republican Democrat as, let's say, like maybe my generation or the past generations who like they're in those parties. I think they're more, okay, I see, like you're talking about, is I see the corruption, I see the bad stuff, I see all these things, and this is what's wrong with the system. And they're more for, okay, who's outside of that system. I don't think the young people, I think the people who are in that age between and really I put it because 18-year-olds really aren't usually politically astute or active. I think it's that 23 to 35-year-olds, that in between, that are, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm just sick of it. And they're looking for that person who's outside of it. And that's what Bernie represented. And again, back to that, is that's a little bit of what, quote unquote, Trump
But
represents.
he really didn't either, because, I mean, how long has he been in politics? He just had a better way of relating.
But they're saying
Oh, yeah.
people haven't paid him off, I think.
Right.
That's the
But
biggest
that's what
thing.
an election is how you
But how
relate
do
to
they
people.
know that? They don't know that. She just happens to have been in higher profile positions.
There's just emails
And-
proving that
and-
she has.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not
it's,
saying it's right. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not.
No,
I'm
no.
not
I just
defending
think,
that.
I just think that if he would have been the nominee, we would be hearing more stories. In my opinion, they go after who they think is the most
Well,
threatening.
he's been 25 years
And I also
Yeah.
think to a degree people want to.
in politics.
But you didn't hear anything about Kasich. I mean, really, honestly, the only one you hear a lot about was Cruz.
That's because I don't think
And
Kasich
he was
had a
front runner.
But Kasich didn't have a shot. That was the problem. Like, Kasich should have been out months before,
Yeah.
but he just stuck it in there just to be that guy that's in there.
Just
So,
like Bernie was sticking it to Hillary.
right. So, but the thing was, nobody really was paying much attention to Kasich because it was like he's not going anywhere. He's just there just to be there. As far as Bernie though, one thing that did come out about Bernie is he used to write porn. No, seriously, he did.
True.
You can look it up.
True.
He used
That's
to,
true.
in the 60s, 70s, he used to write porn.
I don't
swear
even,
to God.
I don't even, I need that not to be a picture in my head.
I did not hear that. That is-
Bernie's a freak.
Yeah,
Look it up.
Bernie is a freak, ladies and
Look it up.
Oh, yeah.
Look it up.
That
Look
is
it up. That's a
hilarious.
fact. I
Yeah.
saw that. I looked and I fact checked it, and that's true.
Okay, on that note,
We'll discuss more.
Yeah,
No, well, not
yeah.
really more, but
Yeah.
we'll discuss.
yeah,
I'll bring some in.
Yeah. On that note, next week on the podcast we'll be talking about the DNC, and we'll be talking about the Bernie faction, the Hillary faction, and we'll dig deeper into that side. So with that ends this week's Party Files, and we will talk about this week's Party Favors. And there was a couple of stories that I did see that were a little bit more heartwarming. One, I found there was this homeless teen that he biked 50 miles in order to register for college. He's in Georgia, and he was registering at Gordon State College, and there was this huge outpouring of folks that donated money to him, and I think they donated like $185,000 when this story came out.
Wow.
In the Georgia News to get this kid to college because he was obviously dedicated and had his head in the right place, and people wanted to help him out. And just so the podcasters out there knows, this is a black teen. So
He had a dream.
there, as much as we hear about all of the bad things that are happening to our black youth, and there are a massive amount of things happening and going wrong, and definitely that is a podcast that I will get into on a different date. I did want to give a story that was uplifting about a black kid who was just trying to do the right thing, and everybody saw it, and everybody dumped him a ton of money. to help him
Mario.
do it.
That's awesome.
Is it true in the story, and I think I remember reading something on this, that wasn't it a peace officer that kind of took notice of him?
Yes,
and helped him out?
Yeah. He was the first one.
He was the
first
kind
one
of got it started and got it on the social media, and
Yeah, it started
he saw a young man.
He started a Facebook page for him.
Yes.
And, he saw a
Did
young
they get
man.
Kickstart?
Yeah, he started a Facebook page and then a Kickstarter campaign that,
Now, to me, that is, not only the young man had a dream and something he wanted to do, and he was willing to reach out and grab it, but he had a peace officer that saw, wow,
And cared about
And-
it.
I care about this kid enough, he wants to do something, I'm willing to help him out. he has the will to succeed. I'm gonna give him the tools to succeed. And for me, and you know my history, man, that warms my cockles. I am all about that 100%. Raise yourself up every day.
And that is why that is one of this week's party favorites. I thought
that's an excellent story.
A great story.
I think, you know, a couple things. One is definitely keep that kid in mind in the future, because if you have that kind of dedication, and again, we're talking about in the South, and when we talk about this week or this month, it has been extremely brutally hot. So to get on a bicycle in 100 plus degree heat index,
Georgia heat,
Georgia humidity, absolutely.
Right.
You're on a bike and you go 50 miles to register for college. That's somebody who's dedicated. They've got a vision. They've got a desire. And I think that kid's probably going to do great things. So definitely keep him in.
By the way, that'll take you 2.5 to 3 hours bike ride.
Not only that, I will predict that this young
3
man
hours.
will reach out and bring other people up behind him.
Yeah.
That's the thing about this young man. And if I would not think I'll be proved wrong here. I think I'll be proved right. He's going to realize the gift he was given. He's going to work hard to achieve it, and then he's going to go back and bring more people with him. Yeah. And that's how change happens. It happens slow, but it happens right.
It happens right. So everybody out there in podcast land, this kid's name is Fred Barley. He's in Conyers, Georgia. So if you happen to see his Facebook page or run across the Kickstarter or whatever, kick him down. Give him a couple of dollars. I think it'll be all right.
I think Conyers is a, if I'm not mistaken, I was there I think a month or two ago. It's a suburb of Atlanta.
Yeah.
So it's to the southeast of Atlanta. So think about how hot and miserable it's been in Atlanta. So that's what he had to go through.
Absolutely. But
I think what this story really points out, and I think we as Americans, we put a lot of our problems in the forefront. We're the first people to go out and talk about we have a racist past, we have this kind of past, and that kind of stuff. I think what we don't do enough of is promoting all the good that we do. And in that sense, America is one of the most charitable nations in the world, not only within our own borders, but actually outside of it. A lot of times when things like what happened in Haiti, what happened in Indonesia, we were some of the largest private donors, just private money going into those areas and helping those people out. Not just the money that the government gives, but actually what the individuals here actually give to those places. So we do a lot more than what I think a lot of people realize as individual citizens.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Next party favor that I thought was a great story. There's a guy named Samson McCormick. He took to Facebook to talk about an elderly man that he met in the grocery store. He just called the guy Mr. Samuel. Mr. Samuel is a white guy, and Samson is a younger black guy, and he said it made his day because he was in the store, saw that he was a little short on money, and this elderly white guy bought his groceries for him, and his comment to him was, "Black lives do matter," and I thought that was another one of those stories that I was just like, yes, I want to talk about all the party fouls where people have just spilled their drink all over the place, but I also want to talk about the good stories too, because just like when you go to any real party, you actually might witness several party fouls, but you only walk away usually with one party favor. And so I wanted to make sure that I found.
You better only be walking away with one party favor. That's all I gotta say.
I have another positive story. It was in the Kansas City Star, and I wish I could remember the man's grocery store. I wish I could remember his name, but I can't. But he owns a grocery store here in Kansas City. It's an inner city. They're in the food desert, where there's not a whole lot there. And he is 90-some years old, damn near, somewhere 89, 90 years old. still goes to the store every day. And he will literally sometimes take people home with their groceries. They can't get a ride. And all of his kids work in the grocery store.
That's awesome.
And they thought about, there was times when they talked about closing it, but they just won't do it because it serves his community. They're a black family, serving black folks, taking care of their community. And that grocery store is an important place to them, very important place to them. And there's a lot of folks, they got to take the bus there to get back, and if they have to wait on the bus, it's too hot, he's not beyond going and getting in his truck and taking them home.
That's awesome.
Or sometimes even bringing them to the grocery store to buy their groceries and go home.
Yeah,
And I don't doubt that he doesn't throw a few extra things in on occasion.
having been, one of those people at one point in time in my life that, was going to need to walk to and from the grocery store and carry as much as I could carry, back the 5 or 6 blocks to walk back home. That type of story, that type of person, that's just a beautiful thing because I know how difficult that is. I've known and have known over the years several people who they've had to take cabs or something to just go make groceries, and that's so
And
not
they really
only,
couldn't afford to take that cab.
Exactly.
That's the sad thing, was
Yeah.
cutting into their little bit of income that they had.
exactly
And I was poor and homeless once too, so
Yeah.
I didn't have a vehicle for years after mine got disposed of.
Yeah. So with that, those are a couple of stories that I found this week, and I want to share in this week's party favor section, which brings us to the close of this week's Loft Party Podcast. And I want to thank everybody out there for tuning in. I want to thank everybody on the panel for coming, and I want to end this with the quote that I end all podcasts with, the quote that kind of started it all for me. And that is, if everybody raises their glass to good times with good people.